Another week of Behind the Lens. Don't you just love those French horns? Did you miss them last week?
I missed them last week. I missed you last week.
Oh, I missed you too. I was here all by my lonesome.
I was expecting you to say that you had
I missed you last week too.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I missed your voice. The singing voice was really...
You know, I heard that singing voice back and it's horrendous. I apologize to all the Behind the Lens listeners.
I thought it sounded great.
That I might have subjected you to, I guess.
How did Debbie do last week?
She did good.
Oh, nice.
She puts herself down a lot, but that's because she's a critic. But
that's true.
She did really well.
And I'm very critical of myself. But, so here we are this week, back for Behind the Lens, and we are going definitely behind the lens today. We're going to talk about some lowriders. We're going to talk about McFARLAND. We're going to talk about song, lyricism, musicality. And really great
Kevin Costner film.
A really great Kevin Costner film.
So he's been in like 30 sports movies, it seems.
He's the consummate sportsman. He is the man. Yeah. Be he Crash Davis, be he Billy Chappell, be he standing in a field of dreams, be he negotiating on draft day.
Nice.
I worked all that in there.
Nice.
You like that? Worked all that in there.
Very good, yeah.
He is the consummate. When you think of a sports movie in present day, you think of Kevin Costner.
Is there any actor who even compares as far as the sports genre goes with Costner?
In today, no. Decades ago, Jimmy Stewart. Definitely Jimmy Stewart.
Right. Gary Cooper had that one.
Gary Cooper.
Yeah.
I think they were predominantly the guys you identified with. Granted, Ronald Reagan had a football movie, but we can forget about that. Right. Nobody compares with Costner when it comes to a sports film. And then you take Costner with the way he delivers inspirational speeches, reflective notes of a life well lived or not, and you throw in a true story and Disney.
And a really good filmmaker too.
And it is a film that everybody needs to see. And as I told Niki Caro, the director of McFARLAND USA, and all the reps at Disney, McFARLAND USA should be, every town in America should be what McFARLAND is.
Also makes you want to run up a hill.
No, it does not make me want to run up a hill.
That does not?
No.
Were you ever a runner?
No.
Really?
No.
After you run, you get a real nice runner's high. I mean, I have plantar fasciitis now. I can barely run or barely walk, but back in the day, I did used to run.
No.
No, never?
No.
It's never too late, just throwing that out there.
No. So, ankles, knees, hips, no. At this stage of the game, no.
Okay, but...
It
is inspiring on just the superficial running sense as well, because they go through a lot of stuff.
Well, and McFARLAND, it's about cross-country runners and the community. And as Niki Caro told me, cross-country runners, there is something very beautiful and elegant about watching cross-country runners. It's not just somebody on a track going round in a circle and round in a circle and round in a circle. But before we get to our clips of my exclusive with Niki Caro and of the press conference with Kevin Costner and these wonderful new actors that have now, non-actors that are now actors, we got Oscars and Spirit Awards this week too. And
you're covering the Spirits?
Lydia and I will be there on the blue carpet. Yes, we will.
The blue carpet?
The blue carpet. Spirit Awards, they do a blue carpet.
They've always done a blue carpet?
They do a blue carpet.
I had no idea.
Down on the beach.
Is there any reason? Because it matches the ocean or something? Or are they just...
Well, what do you think? Blue is natural, calming,
ocean,
pretty.
Calming. Okay. Oh, Okay.
So it should be a lot of fun. I cast my votes timely for the Spirit Awards, as we talked about a few weeks ago. Every year people can cast their votes if they join Film Independent.
Yes. Are you excited about certain filmmakers and actors you're going to interview on the blue-ish carpet?
Well, it depends who is walking on the blue-ish carpet and who will stop to talk. But
wait, most of them don't stop to talk, or do a lot of them do actually?
50-50. It
Oh,
depends
okay,
how late.
okay.
It depends how late things are running. It depends who has to get inside the tent. But my favorite part is actually when I'm in the press tent, in the winner's tent, where they come after they win.
Okay.
You know, I mean,
They're in a good mood.
they're in a great mood.
Yeah.
There have been instances over the years where some people have not made it into the press tent.
Because
They
just-
were actually taken off stage because of
Oh.
the free-flowing moe
okay
at the tables.
Okay.
So it's always a good time. It's always a good time. But I have to tell you, I mean, I am thrilled with some of the Spirit nominees. Most notably I'm thrilled for all the love for Nightcrawler.
Yeah. I
I am just thrilled for all the love for Nightcrawler. And out of all the bigger awards, the BAFTAs are the only one that recognized Rene Russo with a nomination. That woman
She's
has been
fantastic.
so overlooked this award season. But luckily your husband has not. Dan Gilroy has an Oscar nom. He's got multiple Spirit Award nominations. Riz Ahmed has a best supporting actor for Spirit Award nomination for Nightcrawler.
You know, Gilroy said something really interesting at the LA Film School a couple of weeks ago. They had the screenwriting seminar thing, and he was saying that lately now he doesn't really believe in the idea of a character arc or a protagonist or antagonist or just people. And, you know, because in real life, people don't have these great kind of defining moments. There's no beginning, middle, end structure. So I think that really applies to the construct of Nightcrawler and the main character and the characters that revolve around that universe. So it's a very interesting film, and I'm glad it's getting a lot more recognition.
And it's a beautiful film.
Yeah.
The cinematography stuns. But, you know, we've got other great cinematographers this year that are Oscar nominees and Spirit Award nominees. Emmanuel Lubezki for Birdman. He's been, you know, cleaning up with awards thus far for Best Cinematography.
Yeah.
I think he's going to walk away with the Oscar. And I think, much to my chagrin, because this for me was a very difficult category with Spirit Awards, Darius Kanji for The Immigrant
Right.
or Lubezki.
You know what? Obviously, do you have a preferred choice as far as that goes? Obviously, Lubezki is probably going to get it, but
I think because of the nuance and the visual texture that Kanji brought to The Immigrant and the patina and the palette that he created, I think there's a lot more craftsmanship.
right.
There's a lot more texture and storytelling with the lighting itself.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I would definitely go with Kanji over Lubezki.
Beautiful one-shot trick, and it's very frenetic.
But
and I
that's
think
just it. It's a one-shot trick. It's
it
a trick.
is. It's just it's the popular choice. But you're right. As far as the nuance goes, the lighting, the scope of The Immigrant, you'd have to give it to Kanji.
The scope is just stunning. The story it tells, the history it tells. I love that film. And Marion Cotillard is stunning in it. Jeremy Renner is amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wish that film had gotten more love all around in award season. But it got at least a Spirit Award nomination. Maybe. My fingers are crossed.
Is this your favorite awards of the season as far as because it really recognizes the filmmakers and maybe movies that were kind of ignored by the Globes or the Oscars?
It really is. It really is. And with the Spirit Awards, because I spend so much time and am so involved with Film Independent, with LA Film Festival, with the indie world, that I get to see so many of these films that from the beginning.
Right.
You know, like the other week, Supremacy when Dion Taylor. I mean, I love that film, and I've been on that journey with Dion.
Yeah.
The Life and Mind of Mark DeFriest, fascinating documentary that broke during LA Film Festival, just got a release date. And this is the power of film. Mark DeFriest is a man, he's been imprisoned for, I think, 30-some years now in Florida. He has been called the Houdini of the prison system because he's escaped umpteen times. He also is a victim of the judicial system. He landed in jail initially because his father passed. Tools his father had promised him in the garage. He was a machinist. He went and he took the tools. His stepmother had him arrested.
That's amazing.
And he didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So, you know, he ended up in jail and he became a victim of the system. A psychiatrist was involved. Bad lawyering was involved. and he's been in and out of jail all these decades.
Yeah.
Finally, a psychiatrist admitted that, well, I was wrong. An attorney stepped back in, and our filmmaker got involved with following Mark's story. And slowly, it came to the public attention. I even wrote a brief to the Florida Parole Board, an amicus brief. And a lot of people did. A lot of lawyers stepped up. And he is finally now, after all this time, Mark is now, with a year of rehab and transitioning, he's now eligible for parole.
Wow.
And
what a story.
That is in large part due to the exposure of this film. So the power of film speaks. And this is one of the little engine that could.
Yeah.
So, and
that's
you don't
kind of awe-inspiring just hearing that.
You don't see that or hear that about the majority of Oscar films unless it is some of the more powerful documentaries.
Right.
But, and here again, with documentary categories for Oscars and Spirit Awards are just amazing. Of course, I think we know who's going to walk away with the doc both nights.
Oh, Citizen?
So I think it's going to be Citizen 4.
Yeah, Citizen 4. Personal favorite of mine is The Salt of the Earth.
Salt of the Earth is beautiful.
You know,
Wim Wenders did an amazing job chronicling that story. Virunga, they're doing a last-minute push now for Oscar.
Right.
With all of the TV ads.
A blitz.
It's a blitz.
Yeah.
It's a Leonardo DiCaprio blitz. And it's a fine film. It's a great film. But I don't think it deserves to walk away with the big award of the year. I don't think it deserves Oscar. But I think Citizen 4 will walk away, but I think Salt of the Earth is more deserving.
You know, the idea of a photographer, he leaves his life, his corporate life, to travel the world and document and photograph and actually live and embed himself with people, different tribes, different parts of the world, just to connect to humanity. And it's his life work to actually connect with people and to share their stories, even at a advanced age now, still doing it in a different fashion. It's a very beautiful film. So
and what he's done, what Salgado has done with the land and giving back and planting trees and forests that have through deforestation that disappeared, it's just an amazing story about how he celebrates and cherishes the earth and its people.
What's funny, what's resonant about the documentary is you see through Wenders' eyes and Salgado's photographs and interviews, you see all the devastation and tragedy and death he's been through his entire life, just all those life-changing incidents for a different person that could have completely changed them in a different path. But the fact that in his third act, he's actually giving back to the earth and letting things grow. It's a beautiful documentary.
It's absolutely amazing. So, now, an interesting category for me is the best female actress. I think we're pretty assured that Julianne Moore is going to get the Oscar.
Yeah.
I think she is the deserving one with Best Female Lead for Spirit Award. But as we've got the competition, and remember, it is the Indie Spirit Awards.
Yes.
The Film Independent Spirit Awards. Marion Cotillard, Julianne, Jenny Slate with Obvious Child, which is a huge indie fave. Tilda Swinton, which that came out of nowhere.
Right.
Another stunning film this year.
It's a stunning film. It's a really interesting... people may think it's just about vampires or whatnot.
And it's not.
It's really a meditation on life. And it's, in many ways, it's a two-hander. A lot of times are cramped in his domicile, right? Those two vampires. But it's really interesting.
It's fascinating. And to see the centuries that have gone by as encapsulated within one house is just, it's stunning. That, and it's a fabulous performance. Marion Cotillard, though, with The Immigrant, she could get some love. She was a big favorite with the fans who were outside the nominees' brunch a few weeks ago.
Well, she's a big favorite with journalists. She's always been nice to journalists just during interviews and very open and just giving with never really guarded during her interviews. So she is a favorite.
Absolutely.
I have still not seen Kumiko the Treasure Hunter.
Well, then, if you're very nice, I will bring you
Okay,
my
cool.
screener,
Cool. Nice.
which I got through Film Independent as part of my screening packet for Spirit Awards.
Very good. Very good.
I'm more than happy to let you take a gander at that. It's going to be a toss-up here with Best Director. I think, Boyhood, I think, is really... it's got the momentum everywhere. Richard
That's
Linklater,
true. Yeah.
Boyhood.
It's his time already with a great body of work, starting from Slacker, right?
But that's not why you give an award. You give it for the project at hand.
That exactly correct. But I think most people do the whole, the Color of Money, Paul Newman.
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
Where it's like you award the body of work, I think, and it's not really right. But I think that's just the way. That's a spiritual thing to do, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, personally...
That's not how you vote.
No,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
that is never how I vote. It's never how I pick. It's never how I break down films.
Yeah, I would vote that way because I'm kind of a sentimental kind of... I look at the body of work, so I'd be a horrible voter.
If
Yeah.
people voted just on a performance, Nicole Kidman would have gotten an Oscar for Moulin Rouge.
Oh, yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah, yeah.
What can I say?
But as far as director goes, other than Linklater, who on that list would you have...
Well, I think. We have to take a break. We're getting the clap. Meditate on that for a
Behind the
while.
Lens is sponsored in part by the Culver City Observer. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com.
And we're back. We need French horns.
We need a more audible me. More
More
voice.
You're
More voice.
you're much more audible now.
Okay, better? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
Yes, our gurus in the booth.
You can hear me
Bryan,
now.
Bryan and Lydia were
Yes,
out
they were
here
giving
playing
me
with things.
good advice on how to actually speak to the mic. So,
Yes, and now they're wooing again in there.
So-
I don't know what we're going to do with them, and they're wooing. But,
you can hear my melodic voice now, right?
yes, I can
My-
hear your
my-
melodic voice
Soothing, dulcet tones of...
on this President's Day. It sounded
Yes.
very presidential today.
Thank you so much. So, all right,
Oh,
cool.
you sounded more like Elvis there.
Oh, my bad. So,
You're bad.
Asian Elvis. So, yeah. You know what? For the spirits, how are the quality, even through the blue carpet, how are the actual chats? Even though they're quick, are they fun? Is it a more relaxed atmosphere?
Definitely a more relaxed atmosphere. My buddy Keith Stanfield, who was in Short Term 12,
Oh, yeah.
Keith is in another film this year, and he's got his music career. Let's see, last year, to be entertaining with me and me alone, he lay down and was spinning on the carpet for the camera. Who knows what? He's already warned me
Oh, okay, cool.
about
cool.
this year.
Yeah.
He's going to be stopping and making a spectacle of himself again. But
Sounds like so much fun, actually, to cover.
it is. I love doing it. It's the 30th Spirit Awards. This will be my 25th
My gosh.
Spirit
Yeah.
Awards.
Yeah.
Either attending and or covering. Because there were many years that I didn't cover, but I attended.
I've never even watched it. I don't know if you go back and actually watch the show after covering it.
No.
No. Oh,
No.
You're not gonna. Okay.
No. I live things. I don't go back and watch them again.
Okay. Cool. Cool. You live it.
I live it.
I prefer to watch.
Okay.
So, okay. Yeah.
I'm the Matthew McConaughey, live
Got
it.
You gotta just do it, right? Yeah.
But I won't do a Lincoln commercial.
No,
But for the
no.
right amount of money, I might.
No meditative.
No
car
meditative.
Okay.
I
gotcha,
can't
gotcha.
do contemplative meditative.
But you like singing though.
I love singing. I love musicals. Everybody knows how much I love musicals.
Did you like Parade? Because that's Anna Kendrick's favorite musical.
That is Anna Kendrick's favorite musical, stage musical. I think it's wonderful.
Mm.
I wouldn't call it my favorite.
But it is wonderful.
It is wonderful.
Still lovely.
It is lovely, delightful, delectable, and all of that.
Right.
For stage musicals, I love the Ethel Merman, the Carol Channing, the Hello Dollies, the really loud, brassy musicals. But
Yeah.
then I also love these very melodic.
I don't see it with you. I just don't see it.
You don't see it. No, nobody does. And I
Yeah.
know that my aunt down in Omaha, Georgia, she's watching this,
Yeah.
is laughing herself silly. So we'll say hello to Aunt Ruth just
Hello?
because
Hello?
she is our biggest fan. In case there is any doubt in anybody's mind, she is our biggest fan.
So the last 5 years isn't brassy, but it has its own kind of unique tone. And
it is priceless. It is the musical deconstruction of a relationship. And the translation going from Jason Robert Brown's stage version, which is essentially two people, Jamie and Kathy, talking in monologue to the audience through song. What has now happened with Richard LaGravanese in doing this film adaptation, the characters have backstories. It is now a fully encompassing 360 as Kathy is going backwards, reflecting on a relationship, and Jamie his story is coming forward. And in the film, we meet in the middle at one point. But it's a very lyrical film. The musicality, the lyricism, the fluidity of camera from the cinematographer Steve Meisler is stunning. That camera is tracking and going 360 in so many sequences that it just fuels the swirl of romance and love. So at the press day, as you know, because you were there, I had a chance to ask co-star Jeremy Jordan, Anna Kendrick, and writer-director about creating this lyricism on screen.
We're playing Niki 1, right?
No, we're playing last 5 years one.
Okay, because I had the order all wrong. Okay, hang on. Let me readjust here.
it's a holiday.
It's a holiday.
We're all,
Well, we had a minor technical glitch there.
Just a minor
one.
Yeah.
That is the joy of live whatever. Hopefully, Bryan will have up here in a second the clip from the last 5 years.
The musical.
Not
the running film. And
okay. Oh, well, we're traveling. We're talking.
With that being said, the production value on last 5 years, even though it is a low budget film, did you see the production values? Really
the production value is phenomenal on that film. And because I also did a one-on-one with Richard and talked about the film. And costuming is such a big part. Costuming and hair, a huge part of creating these characters that we see on screen. And not the least of which are the headscarves with the character of Kathy. Because when she's in her single stage and I see all these headscarves, all I'm thinking of is 1970s Rhoda Morgenstern. Jewish single girl trying to find a husband.
Oh, got it.
And that's exactly the point that Anna Kendrick's Kathy is in, at that moment in the film. So, I mean, there's so much thought, there's so many little details that went into this. But it is the musicality that is truly stunning. And a lot of this is also due to Sabina Hoffman, the editor of the film. Sabina did an amazing job. And here again, it's the cadence of the music itself that helped dictate where, how the camera was moving, how the editing was going, the cuts that were being made. So it's quite, a really beautifully done film. Actually, it's stunning to look at, stunning to listen to. And we have the soundtrack somewhere. Oh, there it is, right there.
Up front. And do you like the soundtrack?
Soundtrack is stunning.
Yeah.
Have you listened to the whole track?
I have not listened to the soundtrack. I've been a bad boy, so.
The soundtrack is even more beautiful.
I'm a guy. The only soundtrack I know is Guys and Dolls and West Side Story. So I've got to actually boost my musical knowledge.
Well, and what's so lovely when you get the deluxe edition CD.
Get the lyric sheet
of the last 5 years. You get the lyric sheets.
Nice. You could sing to the tracks.
So in other words, the liner notes are beautifully done.
Yes. Bryan can actually sing to the songs from the last 5 years. So
yes, instead of singing Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, you can do
so
cuts.
it is lovely, and anybody that likes musicals, anybody that likes theater, stage, this is the perfect thing to buy, to see, a belated Valentine's gift.
So would you call Anna Kendrick now the queen of the musical because of what she's been involved in the last several years? Or
with
is there someone...
Pitch Perfect, with Into the Woods,
Yes.
Now with Pitch Perfect 2 coming up. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's
She's-
no one that compares to her right on that level right now.
I think Anna Kendrick is actually filling the Debbie Reynolds of the 50s.
Very good. Yes. Yeah, I see that. I definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison.
I still have not seen Pitch Perfect. I still haven't. There's movies I'm still, there's a couple of things I still haven't seen.
And now we're waiting for Pitch Perfect 2 to come out.
Now we're waiting for Pitch Perfect 2.
Imminently.
So, imminently, yeah. So
you need to get on the stick here. I'm telling you.
So you covered the press conference. I was there.
You were there.
I was there in body, not in spirit. I have to really get into the musical thing myself.
The musicals are it's just another layer of storytelling, and this is truly a musical. It's not just music for music's sake to plug it in. The story is told through music, and there is very little dialogue. It is all music.
Well, what's interesting now is the film was released on Friday, right, in select theaters, but also on VOD and iTunes. Mm-hmm. So do you see musicals kind of actually being more of these type of films being released kind of day and date? It gives more opportunities to different musicals down the pike to actually get released and to actually have more, opportunities.
I think it does, but at the same time, a film like this you need to see on the big screen to appreciate the scope and the camera movement and the grandeur that the music itself creates.
Right, yeah.
I have never seen a musical on the small screen that is anywhere near as fine as it is on the big screen.
That's a film purist, and that's totally the correct answer. But I think the new generation, and I'm sounding like an old man, they'll be more than happy to see Lawrence of Arabia on their iPhone or their iPad.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
Yeah.
But the good news is film is still going to be around for a while. Kodak just announced another deal. They're going to keep making film.
Yeah.
So for the purists at heart.
Do you personally prefer, can you notice that wash of the color, the warmth of the color of film when you're watching something on the big screen or even in the small screen as opposed to a digital film that maybe has been to be made to look like a film? Do you know what I'm saying?
In many cases I can.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the beautiful things about McFARLAND. And when we start with those clips,
right.
I talked to Niki Caro about that because McFARLAND is shot on film. And one of the beautiful things you can see with the film being totally backlit, she and her DP, Adam Arkapow, shot it on film, backlit the whole film.
Now, when you backlit what does that do? Does that bring the images closer to the forefront? Does it give more dimension?
It gives you light. It gives you dimension.
Okay.
It also allows you to keep shooting. But it keeps things. There's a continuity. There's a visual continuity with your lighting, and it also allows. There's so many scenes in McFARLAND. You may recall some of them where they're running up the almond mounds,
right? Where
they are running in that final race, the cross country through Griffith Park, and you get the beautiful contrast with the backlit with the sun.
Yeah,
and you can see the little, when you sit there on a warm summer day and you're just looking at the sunbeams, and the tiny little specks of light. As a kid, you're always fascinated by that, and film will capture that. It gives a texture, it gives a grain. And granted, you can. I know Lasse Hallström, now having shot a 100-foot journey in digitally as opposed to film. He was a film purist, but he was very happy with what digital can do and what it did do.
Or it can close to replicate it.
It can close to replicate.
Okay, but not fully.
Not fully.
Okay, yeah.
Not fully.
Because McFARLAND really does, I had no idea it was shot on film, but it really has a rich golden look to it.
And we're taking a break.
Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is the #1 newspaper in Culver City, covering local news, politics, and community events, with sports by Mitch Chortkoff and movie reviews by Debbie Lynn Elias. Culver City Observer is the place to go to be in the know. When you think Culver City and the heart of Screenland, think Culver City Observer. When you think movies and movie reviews, think Culver City Observer. Culver City Observer, a division of Arizona Newspaper Group, is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com.
And we're back. We're dealing with all kinds of technical issues today. Obviously, the world.
And I am technically an issue as well. So
You're always an issue. You're
I'm always an issue.
always.
And it's a Monday, number one. Number two, it's kind of a holiday, right? What holiday is it again?
It's President's Day.
I'm kidding. Yeah, so we're all a little bit off, except you. You're not off.
And I've been up since 2:30 in the morning.
Oh,
so
wow. Yeah. You 2:30?
Yeah.
Oh, because the prep and stuff.
yeah.
Okay.
I stayed up and I watched Saturday Night Live 40th anniversary last night.
And you loved it?
I loved it.
Cool.
I thought it was great.
I did not see that. I slept at 8. I'm an old man already, so I don't.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Well, hopefully we can now let us check with Bryan in the booth. We have it. Okay. We now have the clip for the last 5 years with Anna Kendrick, with everybody joining in and chiming in, talking about how they created this full-bodied lyrical flow of the last 5 years on film.
You get up.
First of all, congratulations. As I mentioned to you, Anna, back for Into the Woods, this is phenomenal. The two of you are amazing with your vocal styling, your lyricism. How did you go about, and Richard, weigh in on this as well for all three of you, how did you go about translating what's basically just a two-person on stage to making it a full 360 roundabout with your performances in this film? Because it's so beautiful, it's so immersive, and we're right in the middle of this swirling love.
It's a big question.
There were some actual swirly moments.
Yes. Originally the show was done as monologues out to the audience. And in listening to it, I thought I couldn't help but imagine it being done as playable scenes, because the song not only belongs to the person singing, but to the person receiving it, and it adds a whole nother layer to how men and women, or any relationships, kind of, we sing different songs, we sing different languages sometimes in our love affairs, and we worked on backstories for the characters so that when they're listening, their story is being forwarded, their emotional story, and they worked very hard on that.
I remember, I'm such a jerk, I should know this, but I'm blanking on the name of the director of the original production.
Daisy Prince.
She came to set one day, the day that we were shooting my half of the phone call about moving in together.
To meet her.
And it was she was having a sort of out-of-body experience because, first of all, she was like, Kathy speaks.
Yeah.
That was new for her. Mm-hmm. And also she was like, I didn't know that Kathy would be so artsy. And I forget sometimes that we weren't working from material that dictated all of these things, because my first experience was reading Richard's screenplay. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see if people, will add their own versions of, because in so many ways they are conducive to being added to and interpreted in very unique ways. And this isn't, for every high school, college, professional production of this isn't the definitive version of Kathy and Jamie. And, it was... I took it for granted that we could put ourselves and our versions of Kathy and Jamie in the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have to say that if I had to choose, and I think I said this on our premiere show, if I had to choose between watching Anna Kendrick in Into the Woods and watching Anna Kendrick in the last 5 years,
yes,
I will watch her multiple times in the last 5 years. It is one of her finest musical performances.
Okay.
So, ringing endorsement for musicals, my friend.
Picking her over Sondheim. That's
Yes.
pretty big. But Brown is pretty big too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And plus, the challenges and the emotion that she really gets to convey throughout the course of a 97-minute film is stunning. But now we're going to trot on over to McFARLAND USA.
Oh, but very quickly though, one of the
Yes.
great things about last 5 years is it's not a cookie cutter look at a relationship. That's
Oh,
the one good,
no.
really one of many good things about the film.
Well, and it's because of the construct where you've got Jamie looking forward, Kathy looking backwards, and they meet in the middle. Musically, it brings it together in the middle.
yeah.
So, at one of the most beautiful scenes in the film, as a matter of fact. And it is one of my favorite musical sequences of the past, I'd say, 30 years.
Speaking of not being cookie cutter, McFarlane USA just really pretty much breaks the mold as far as that quote unquote sports movie goes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know why, because you were able to actually talk to the filmmaker one-on-one.
Well, it's a great story. And as we were talking about at the top of the show, Kevin Costner in a sports film, no brainer.
Book it, right?
I think that he hasn't done basketball yet. He hasn't done hockey yet.
Right.
There are a couple more sports out there for him to tackle. But you've
Right.
got to have the right story to tell, and this is the right story to tell. The story of Jim White and the 1987 McFarland track team, cross country team, is the stuff that dreams are made of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here is Jim White. He goes to McFarland, it's a town that's all about farm, family, and faith.
Yeah. Blue
And-
collar town, very hard working town.
Where kids are up it's primarily Hispanic
Yeah.
community.
Mm-hmm.
And kids are up at 4 or 5 in the morning out picking in the fields, going to school, and then trying to have an extracurricular life. And it's a great story. And it has turned into a legacy for the community and a legacy for the cross-country runners. But the story of Jim White, it is not a typical story, as you said. It is not cookie cutter. And at the press day, Kevin Costner talked about what appealed to him about McFarlane USA.
Well, I had read this story some time ago. I don't know if it was 10, 15. I'm 60, so I don't remember how long ago. But I had read about it in Sports Illustrated, and I remember being very taken with it. I had lived in the Central Valley in Visalia. I actually played McFarland in high school baseball, but I was taken with the story, and then of course closed the page and moved on with my life. And then this movie came up, and the shining cloud, Niki Caro, said, "Would you be in this movie?" And it was like it's so nice to be wanted. I mean, you might think that I get everything I want. I don't. And to be wanted, and for that to match up, was really a nice thing for me, and it was a beautiful thing actually. And to play Jim, who there's these men and women all over America who are affecting our young people. And the relationships that coaches establish with young people is something that carries through their life if it's done right. There's not a lot of Jim Whites, but there are Jim Whites, and he represents the best, really, of the best. And, it's almost biblical. Our children have a hard time listening to their parents, right? There's a moment in time where kids really don't want to hear anything from their parents. But a coach can take on that thing, and boy, if they are of the cloth that Jim White came from, a very graceful, very quiet man who somehow let them know what was possible. What was just possible, not that they were going to get there, but this is possible for you, a goal. And Jim White, and just kind of putting the goal out in front of him, look what happened. Champions. Look, they exceeded beyond their expectations. So it's a great lesson to us, McFarland, that if we give our children, our young men, our young women goals, we let them see what's possible, they can exceed beyond their own wildest expectations. And it's just a very good lesson in this movie. So I was proud to play the essence of Jim White. I'm not Jim White. I think we'd all like to be Jim White in some way. But it was a pleasure to be able to do that, kind of from that Sports Illustrated article, make this giant circle to actually being in the movie. I mean, that feels like a movie, doesn't it?
And just listening to Kevin Costner, he inspires you.
Oh, yeah. I was about to tear up during that speech myself. So he's just a very reflective yet very motivating force as well.
Extremely so. But in addition to Kevin coming in, we get Niki Caro, known for Whale Rider and study of the Maori people, North Country. Here is this middle-aged woman married woman with 2 kids from Auckland, New Zealand.
Yeah.
And she goes to the Central Valley to McFARLAND, California to direct this film.
One of the great things is that really actually that's another character in the film, McFarlane itself.
McFarlane itself
and
is
the
very
people,
much.
And the people, Kevin Costner is the star, but really it's the people and their hopes and dreams that are really well covered and realistically covered from Niki's hand, So it's really
and you take a look at the kids who play the original 1987 track team.
Yes.
These are kids that they weren't actors. Some were athletes. Ironically, one of them, Michael Aguero, who plays one of the 3 Diaz brothers who are key in the history of McFarland, he plays Damasio. Michael was an actual runner. Ramiro Rodriguez, who plays Danny Diaz, he was a champion soccer player. And this was also his first acting job.
Yeah.
Rafael Martinez, who plays the 3rd Diaz brother, David, he cut school to audition. There are 2 out of the kids who play the team members. Hector Durand, he's been acting since he was 9, so he was an old hand coming into this. And then Johnny Ortiz, he's best known for playing in Southland. Then you get Sergio Avalar. He is an actual runner who now runs on the McFarland Track Club. There are Niki pulled from, and her team pulled from the community, pulled people that are part of McFarland, who are rooted in McFarland, and they went more for acting and embodying the essence of these boys as opposed to the athletics. And then called on Mark Ellis, who is the Disney go-to guru for sports, conditioning and training. He worked with everybody on $1 Million Arm. He's done all the Disney sports movies to condition and train these guys. So why would Niki want to be involved in this film?
That comes from going there and observing. Eyes, ears, heart open, mouth shut. Just and there's because my philosophy for myself as a filmmaker is it would be arrogant and stupid to assume that I know better than those guys what their life is like. And it makes it very easy for me as a filmmaker to go and observe what life is like. And then I bring my skill and to express that in a way that hopefully a big audience can appreciate it the same way that I do.
Well, one of the great things with this film, beyond the story, beyond the performances and the emotion, is it's also a very beautiful film. It's a culturally immersive film, but Adam's cinematography is stunning. I have to ask you how the 2 of you worked this out, because so many people think of the Central Valley and that region of California as being like a West Coast Dust Bowl. And it's dusty and it's dirty, but with the sunlight as backlight and some of those great, long distance, runner shots, it is beautiful. You see the little bits of sun that filter. How did the 2 of you go about creating this visual tonal bandwidth? Because it's so exciting.
Well, Adam, I'd never worked with him before, but he was on my radar because he'd shot Top of the Lake for Jane Campion in New Zealand. And when I looked at it, I thought, wow, he gets it. He's got that sense of place that I ask for from my cinematographers. Very important to me. He's got it. He didn't shoot New Zealand like the chocolate box picture perfect postcard that it can be.
Right.
He got underneath it. And so I approached him and I said to him that I would like him to shoot this, and that all of those things that you're talking about Thank you. You noticed. We discussed. We also discussed photographing McFarland in a way that it was a very hostile place to begin with, and the deeper Jim White and his family got immersed into that environment, the more beautiful it became. And we shot on film. Those are words you must love.
That's music to my ears.
Yeah.
Whenever a director can tell me that they shot on film, especially a film that looks as beautiful as this, and we feel we are back in 1987.
Yeah.
So, and color also came into play here. Light, color, with the houses, the camera framing opened up. I mean, just all around, Niki really nailed what McFarlane is from an emotional standpoint.
And you had a really great talk with Niki, and she seemed like she was really, you guys had kind of that vibe going. And I think when she was saying about your eyes and your heart's open, I think what you get from McFarlane, you must say, is a very curious and inquisitive and passionate filmmaker. So it's a different kind of story, and really well rendered by Niki, I thought. Yeah.
Well, there was one very special part of the film that I fell in love with. That tickled Niki to no end, because she infused this into the film. Great scene of muscle cars. There is a quinceañera that is given by the community for Jim White's daughter. And the whole community gets involved. And that's one of the great things. While they were filming, the whole community got involved and was invited to set. But all of these stunning lowrider cars, they were not in the original script, Chris Cleveland's original script. This is something that Niki brought to the film. Her husband is very involved in lowrider clubs, and it's not what Hollywood thinks lowriders and these muscle cars are. And of course, I think, she and I were commiserating because I had just given up my 73 Plymouth Satellite, and I don't know who had the bigger audible gasp, her or me, over that fact. But we got to talk about cars in McFarland.
All of these great 70s muscle cars that have been, were they actually from a car club in the community? Did you build them up?
Well, good question.
It's not easy to find all of those.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have put them in the movie, and I did. It wasn't the low riding elements of the movie did not exist before I came in. Low riding is kind of a big part of my life because my husband's very big into that world, and we've always had those cars. But I wouldn't have brought it to this movie if it hadn't been very authentic to that place. So Central Valley, Bakersfield, very big low-riding epicenter.
A lot of car clubs there.
Particularly in the 80s, yeah. And one of the first people I ever met was Harvey Race, who's his car club up there is called Canales Unidos, and so way before I started working on the script, actually same time I went to visit Jim White for the first time, I went and visited Harvey and his wife Gloria, and Gloria remains a very good friend. And so my husband, who is kind of all about it and all about getting it right, he sourced the cars, and the cars are so authentic and so specific. Like, we could have used sexier cars, but the sexier cars weren't there then. And so those cars actually came from a car club in North Hollywood. And the Glass House, Harvey's car in the movie with the mural on the hood, that's mine. So that's what I drive my kids to school in. And I mean, it's just a nice sort of glamorous, colourful element in the movie, but it also for me was important to make the point that low riding in Hollywood movies is usually shorthand for gangster. In my experience, and I've had a bit, probably more experience than a white middle-class mother of two from Auckland, New Zealand should probably have, is that car clubs all those guys, they're all about family. They're all about community.
And pride.
Yeah, and their culture. And so I wanted to bring that. There's a little speech Harvey says, we're a car club. We love these cars. they're our babies. That's what I understand about lowriding culture, not I'm going to put a gun to your head. You know?
I think she really gets that across with the way the cars are shown and presented in the film. And since you've seen it, and as other people will see the film this weekend when it opens, there's this great processional, and there's this one car that is the car. It's a 1976 Chevy Caprice that has a beautiful mural painted on the hood. That is, when Niki's talking about that is her car, that is her car.
Oh, awesome. I had no idea.
And
cool.
that is the car she takes her children to school in.
Not bad.
So, yes.
Sure beats my Honda Accord. A lot fancier.
I'll tell you.
And stronger.
Oh, I mean, just absolutely beautiful. But, you know, we also heard from some of the boys. And, you know, for me, talking to Rafael Martinez, Ramiro Rodriguez, and Michael Aguero, who played the Diaz boys, who were the core of the McFARLAND 87 team, and to this day remain central figures in the community. One is still a counselor. One is a police officer in McFARLAND. Another is a track coach. So key. So I had a chance to talk to the boys themselves with the real Diaz brothers sitting there with them.
Nice.
And here is our exchange.
Great job, you guys. But I've got to ask you, you've got the learning curve of the cross country. You worked with Mark Ellis. You all had a little bit of, you know, you were a runner beforehand. So you had some athletic experience, but you had no acting experience. So what was the learning curve like, learning how to act and portray the Diaz brothers and be respectful of who they were at the same time, knowing they're looking over your shoulder and they're a lot bigger and they're going to beat the crap out of you at some point?
Yeah, I would like to say it was all intimidating up until we met these guys. They made their personalities like stand out, and it was easy to read them, and pretty much gave us something to go off of, rather than just sitting and not giving us any feedback from them.
I was really intimidated because, like, I mean, in McFarland we don't have resources to act or anything, you know, and like Niki Caro and the executive producer Mario, they really pushed me. They really they said, oh, we have your back, you know, like anything you need, like with that. And then like next thing you know, like 2 or 3 weeks into the filming, they fired the acting coach. I'm like, what? Like, I thought you guys had my back, you know. But I mean, it's a great experience. And I mean, I had Mr. Diaz, Danny Diaz, as a counselor in high school, and it was just amazing, like knowing him and like having conversations with him when I got in trouble, like really helped me portray him and everything. It was nice.
And what about you, Rafael?
Well, there's certainly very intimidating, a lot of trepidation for portraying a real person. It's very scary. You never want to, offend anybody, or just you always want to remain true. But like I said, like Michael was saying, as soon as I met or we met counterparts, it was just easy from there. It was just very scary, but as soon as we met them with, we got to know who they were, and it was just so much easier to bond from there.
I mean, some of the nicest kids in the world, and to see them up there and to constantly be looking over at their real life counterparts who subsequently just raved about what the boys brought.
And you also raved about this film, right? You would definitely recommend it?
I definitely,
Same here.
The only shortcoming I have with the film is the casting Maria Bello as Jim White's wife, and I don't know if it's because the part wasn't written, because Jim White actually did say that how his wife is portrayed is not really who she is.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was because not enough attention was paid on the page to Mrs. White, or if Maria was just miscast in the role, because she's more or less she's supportive, and it's like, okay, Jim, whatever you want to do, I'll go. You want to leave, I'll follow. Maria Bello does not play those kind of parts.
True. Yeah.
And that's the only...
That was an undercooked role.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
So either get somebody else who doesn't have the chops that Maria Bello has.
Or is okay to recede from the spotlight and actually be a real supporting.
Yeah. So it was like, that's the one shortcoming that I think could have been developed a little bit further. But now, as people watch our video later this week, you'll get to see all the cool swag here from our good friends at Disney. And I know Lydia's going to be happy because she gets to have the sweatshirt after today's show.
What's that big book that looks like it could actually...
Why don't you grab that big book?
I don't know. I'm not muscular enough to...
You're muscular enough.
Okay.
And we'll hold it up here to the center camera.
50 years of Oscar.
No, it's 85 years of Oscar. Robert Osborne, TCM. This is one of the seminal books on the history of Oscar. It is a stunning, stunning reference book, historical book, coffee table. You can open the pages. You're allowed.
I'm a little bit nervous to open the page.
No,
oh, nice. This is a big compendium of stuff. Oh, wow.
Yes, complete histories on...
Year by year?
Year by year.
85, not 50.
So this honored the 85th anniversary. This is the 87th Oscars this coming Sunday. But for any cinephile, for anybody who just wants to learn more about the history of Oscars, the history of film, this is a great book to start with. It's a great book to have in your collection, in your library. And it's a great book to peruse through as we get ready for TCM Film Festival next month. And that's it. We're out of time.
See you next week, right?
We'll see you next week. We will have Bruce Wagner, and we're going to talk about Maps to the Stars.
Interesting. Okay.
Thanks, guys.